Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the co-hosted webinar by DSP, Dubai Science Park, and the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology, also referred to as MOIAT. We're very happy to be here. We're very pleased to be in the presence of His Excellency Omar Al Suwaidi, the Undersecretary of MOIAT, as well as Marwan Abdulaziz, Managing Director of Dubai Science Park. As you all know, we're seeing significant attention towards the industrials and the tech sector. And here at DSP, we've seen unprecedented growth in the sciences in recent years. Today's focus will be on the pharmaceutical industry, a critical industry given the circumstances of today. The objectives of this webinar will be to discuss MOIAT's new strategy, hear a bit about Operation 300 Billion and Industry 4.0. We'll be hearing from Emirates Development Bank on their products and the contribution to the pharmaceutical industry, Dubai Science Park's life sciences ecosystem, the government initiatives that DSP is also working on, as well as we'll be hearing directly from Pharmax's CEO, Madhukar Tanna, on their experience in Dubai Science Park, the opportunities that they've identified in the pharmaceutical manufacturing space, and perhaps some of the challenges they're facing. We'd be happy to take questions. We have a Q&A section at the end, so we just ask that you hold it until then. And on that note, I'd like to hand over to His Excellency Omar Al Suwaidi, the Undersecretary of MOIAT, for introductory remarks, who will then be followed by Marwan Abdulaziz.
Shukran. Thank you, Levant, for that introduction, and thank you, Mr. Marwan, and the entire DSP community. It's a pleasure to be with you today. This is a continuation of some of the sessions we've already started with His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, when we had one of the future dialogue sessions, which we've been conducting in the ministry with companies and entities such as yourselves with priority sectors. Also, it follows some of the visits that Her Excellency Sarah Al-Amiri has been conducting. I know she visited you late last month. And really what we want to do in our engagement as a ministry is to basically engage with the sector, continue that dialogue, have an open discussion in terms of what we're looking for in terms of priorities, what are the synergies, what are the challenges that the sector faces, and get to know your operations and what you do up close, not just in these sessions, but also in visits that we plan to do. We know that DSP has been a strong supporter for the sector, and we know that what you do is part of future industries for UAE. And as Levant, as you said, this fits quite well with our strategy, with our Operation 300 Billion strategy, which we will hear about a bit more from some of our colleagues. It also is going to look at some of the synergies that we play or we have with some of our partners, whether it's Emirates Development Bank or some of the other ministries, some of the incentives, some of the support that we have, and see how we can support you in your business and also achieve the objectives that we're aiming for in the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology. So that without taking too much time, I'd like to just welcome you again to this session, and we'd like to continue this dialogue, continue this cooperation between us, and hopefully we'll hear and get to know more about what we do and what the ministry offers and what your sector also is doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for these warm words. And we have been working very closely with your team, who has been very active in reaching out to us, and also the companies that are part of DSP. I will be talking more about DSP in a little bit more details, but for now, I just want to welcome all the participants. We have a very diverse group of colleagues from the federal and local government, and also some of the companies that are part of DSP. I think I just want to say that in the beginning that at the end of the day, we are all working on the same vision. and that is to make the UAE a resilient economy, a very diverse economy, and also build on its success stories, whether it is logistics, finance, energy, and we are thinking of future industries, and definitely life sciences fits into that. So we have always been a big supporter of improvements to policy, to procedures, because at the end of the day, we want to make life easier for companies. We want to position Dubai and the UAE as an attractive place to live and work. And this does not happen by us working alone. So I welcome the collaboration between us and MOIAT, and obviously the other government entities who have also been involved with us. With that, I'll pass it on to the MOIAT team for them to take us through some of the initiatives that they have.
Thank you, Marwan. So I think I'll start with presenting the MOIAT strategy and maybe give you an overview about some of the initiatives that are ongoing within MOIAT. So Operation 300 Billion is our national strategy for industries. It's codenamed Operation 300 Billion, and the main objective of it is to increase the contribution of industries in the UAE from the current status to the target of Operation 300 Billion within 10 years. So the agenda for today is the strategy, a little bit about the priority sectors, which were mentioned today, some of the initiatives, and maybe a little bit about the campaign Make It in the Emirates. So these are a few numbers about the current status of the industry today. Our contribution towards the GDP is 8.4%. That's 133 billion, as I mentioned. We have 33,000 companies, registered as industrial companies in the UAE. And there's about 737,000 employees in this sector. The industrial sector faces some common challenges, and these were used in developing the strategy of MOIAT. Among them is data issues or unavailability of data or data accuracy. Another one is in terms of the registration process, some segmentation in the registration process. So from emirate to emirate, there is a bit of a difference between Emirates and registering as an industrial company. The other aspect is the lack of deployment of technology in the industrial sector. So, and that's just to mention a few. Also, global shifts were considered in developing the national strategy. Among them is sustainability, the shift towards sustainability. Another one that we're all aware of is COVID-19 and its impact on the world and supply chains. To be in the UAE, there's also some competitive advantages. Among them is having reliable access to raw material and energy, being a world-class country when it comes to IT infrastructure and also logistics. And also it's an ideal country to live and invest in. So we're ranked highly there, and there's a couple of initiatives that are mapped to each of these pillars that you see. So as was mentioned by His Excellency Omar, so at the launch of the strategy, at the launch of the ministry, there were several workshops that were done with the industrial sector, with different parts of the sector. Among them is pharmaceuticals. There was over 40 workshops that were held, and more than 200 stakeholders engaged. The idea was to sort of absorb and collect what challenges that the industry faces today, and make sure that our strategy works on addressing those challenges. And these engagements are ongoing. So it's a continuous effort. So today's session is also an example of that. Operation 300 billion. So I briefly mentioned Operation 300 billion at the beginning of the slide. If we can go to the next slide, it has four strategic objectives. The first two are related to creating the right business environment for industries, and actually increasing the competitiveness of our local products. The third one is about stimulating technology deployment in industries, and the fourth is about boosting the UAE's reputation, pinning the UAE's reputation as a country to invest in industries of the future. such as medtech and pharmaceuticals. Within our industries today, our industries are focused on several sectors, but what composes a good portion of our industries today is chemicals or petrochemicals, heavy industries such as steel and aluminum, the defense industry, electrical machinery and equipment. But we're also focused on industries of the future, such as a list of those which are space, hydrogen, pharmaceuticals, medtech, and agritech. So these are industries which exist today in the UAE, but are probably not at the level that we aspire them to be. So we're aspiring to grow them and further support them. So these are our priority sectors. There are 11 priority sectors on one slide, which include both the existing industries today and what we refer to as industries of the future. So this is a list of the initiatives ongoing in the ministry. They're not all of them, but at the beginning or at the launch of the ministry, there were a list of initiatives here. I think there's 17 of them that were mapped to 4 strategic objectives, and those are the 4 objectives of MOIAT. And this is the list here. Of course, as we collect more challenges, then the ministry launches some initiatives, and some are led by us in collaboration with other entities or other parties. These are examples now of some of the initiatives. One of them here is to bridge a gap in the value chain, or to it's an import substitution initiative, and the idea is to actually grow locally these industries instead of importing from overseas. And these are targets that have been placed on different sectors in the industry. Another one is the in-country value program. So the in-country value program is a program that was launched or established by EDNOC. The ministry is taking it to a national level. And the idea is for it to be a national program that will incentivize to procure locally and support local industries. This is a slide focused on advanced technology. So I'll allow my colleague, Mohammed Al Qasim, to take us through it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah. So as rightly mentioned by His Excellency and my colleague, Dr. Abdullah, Operation 300 billion is our target, and it's a very ambitious target. However, advanced technology will play a vital role in achieving this target. And so within the advanced technology sector, we will be focusing on 3 main verticals. One being the advanced technology agenda for our priority sector. So this will be the technology development engine of Operation 300 billion, where we will be focusing on niche technologies for each priority sector that we have mentioned earlier in the slides, with our technology radar program, which is updating and reviewing the technologies on a regular basis. The second initiative, which is the boosting the industrial sector efficiency and productivity through the adoption of 4th IR solution, and this will be mainly the adoption engine, technology adoption engine under the 300 billion, Operation 300 billion strategy, where the UAE will be launching the Industrial Readiness Index, evaluating the current landscape of industry when it comes to 4th IR, spreading awareness, providing proper training for the executives and for the people, as well as providing the roadmap for those companies to grow and to boost their productivity. At the end, this will be the stepping stone or the qualifying step for either the ICD program, which my colleague Abdullah has mentioned, or the EDB loan, which my colleague Shakar will be sharing with you after our presentation. And then the last but not least is creating an integrated ecosystem to encourage research and development. Today, the UAE spends 1.3% of its GDP into R&D. However, efforts are quite fragmented. So what the ministry will be doing is unifying all efforts, all research and development efforts towards our national priority. This is number 1. Number 2, there will be a focus on bridging the gap on what we call the valleys of death, which is the commercialization aspect of research and development, and of course the prototyping. So we will be working closely with our partners from federal government, from local governments, from academia, and of course the private sector yourself, in order for us to achieve a strong and robust ecosystem that will enable us to be leaders of the industries of the future. This is in a nutshell what we are working on in the advanced technology, and hopefully we look forward to a fruitful discussion at the end of the presentations. Thank you so much.
So Make It in the Emirates campaign is a campaign for action. So it's a call for action to all innovators to come and make it in the UAE, invest in the UAE, make it in the UAE. And that's the idea. So the platform allows you to connect with the ministry if there's any support needed. There's a link on MOIAT's website, Make It in the Emirates, one of the pages, and you could select, reach out, and you can connect to us. Thank you so much. And I think we'll move on to Shakir from ADB.
We would like to thank you for provide us this opportunity to introduce ADB and ADB services and products. ADB was established in 2011 under the federal law, and it's rated by Fitch AA-. The banks have revamped its strategy in 2021 to establish and identify and the key enabler for UAE economy and diversification and industrial transformation agenda. ADB offers financial and non-financial services to support all kinds of companies, starting from SMEs, startup, and large corporate, operating on the strategic sector, which is considering the focus sector of ADB. And our aim is to support the UAE economy in the term of diversification and to be the boosting of their contribution to the country GDP. As we have mentioned earlier, that currently ADB is focusing on 5 major sectors, which are considering the priority sectors: manufacturing, infrastructure, technology, healthcare, and food security. And under each sector, definitely we have subsectors, which is considering ultimate, subsector for all kinds of sectors, including the priority. Under the manufacturing, we have the petrochemicals, plastics, metal fabrication, machinery, and other electrical equipment. And definitely renewable energy equipment, which is considering part of the manufacturing and part of all kinds of solution including the infrastructure sector. Infrastructure also, we are focusing on energy, utilities, transportation, as well as waste management. And regarding the technology, we have the software, IT, advanced technology, and all kinds of renewable energy technology, as well as education tech. The healthcare, we have also the medical equipment hospital, as well as pharmaceuticals and biotechnological, is considering also the major subsector for the healthcare. And the food security, we are focusing on agriculture, agri-tech as well, in addition to fisheries and aquaculture. In ADB, we have tailored suite of financial products in order to support all kinds of market segments, starting from microfinance, small, medium, and large company. And each product is designed in a way to accommodate all kinds of financial requirements for each segment and each sector. We can start with the asset-backed financing, which is a loan secured against the pledge of the assets, which mainly will be a machinery or equipment. And this is, designed in a way to finance the assets with the life cycle of the assets itself. The supply chain, it helps the companies, manufacturer or other companies, to finance their working capital requirement through providing them with short-term revolving line of credit in order to support their supplier payment, invoices counting, and the whole cash flow cycle for their day-to-day businesses. Reverse factoring is also kind of working capital solution, which is provided by ADB through a platform, digital platform. And this platform, it is considering one of the fintech platform to support the ecosystem of the financings, starting providing the line for the large corporate, which is considering the large anchor. And this solution will help SME to get their payment, unlock the receivable upfront through the platform directly. In addition to the working capital, we have also the long-term financing, which is considering one of the main focus of ADB to support the companies, especially on the big investment or large investment, to support them with the long-term financing, what is considering a lag in the current market in the UAE, where those companies needs a large, amount of financing. At the same time, also they need a long-term in order to gather their investment. Project financing, also one of the products which is available in EDB, suits that it will finance the projects in all kind of large corporate as well as medium size, starting from the construction to build their capability in terms of manufacturing lines or other, commissioning lines. And it will be converted technically to a corporate loan after finalizing the project financing period. And this also can be, adjusted and, customized as per the client requirement and as per the feasibility study requirements. In addition to the above, EDB also very active with the government program, especially financing the government-related entities such as housing program, support, UAE national to get their home finance and their related product to the housing program. Also individually, EDB will support the home finance, which is a mortgage solution to finance the construction of the homes specialized for Emiratis. Last but not least, EDB also aimed in 2022 to launch one of the own solution, I believe, available within the operating bank in UAE, which is the equity financing. Equity financing, it will provide a totally different concept of financing. It will not, cover the debt financing. EDB will finance the equity contribution up to 30%. Especially, it will be designed by supporting the equity financing for startup and SME in the priority sector. And this is also, it is one of the solutions which will help the startup to not have, the debt. It will have an equity, which is one of the solutions to support them in terms of growth and, release them from the payment of the installment and the interest. At the same time, this product will also have the option in later stage to convert it to a debt or to exit from the equity itself after we make sure that the company have grown enough and have be able to sustain financially alone. In addition to the financial services, also EDB provide non-financial services, which is related to support, especially the entrepreneurs and SMEs by business coaching, providing them with the training, and also digital program and digital platform to support them, in doing their businesses and do the prioritization for their plan and focus more on their day-to-day business and provide them the solution through consultation and advisory, as well as provide them with the market research to support them to understand better the market and to focus on the area where they can build their business and build their capability. Also, EDB designed a product which is credit guarantee scheme. This product is indirect financing where EDB, he will not fund directly to the lender, especially for the SME. He will support the partner bank, which is a local commercial bank. We have partnership with 5 local commercial banks. EDB will play a role by issuing a financial guarantee to those, financial institution and banks by covering 50% of the exposure up to 10 million dirham total exposure and 5 million dirham for a financial guarantee in order to support SME to has access to the, financing, build their capability as well as credit awareness with the commercial bank. And at the same time, it will help commercial bank to have more appetite by providing a financing to those SME in the absence of the collateral, where EDB will play a role to provide the guarantee as a substitute for the collateral which will be required to finance such kind of company, especially in the small size company. Also, EDB, one of the solutions, which is one of the companies under EDB umbrella, it's Emirates Integrated Registered Company, where this is a platform. The platform, it's used by the banks on UAE to register all kinds of movable assets, and movable assets can be like machinery, equipment, as well as receivables and other kind of movable assets. The aim of this platform and this company is to support both lenders and borrowers to get access to the borrowing through a register. This register, it will focus on providing clearness and transparency for both lenders and borrowers by registering all kinds of securities, which is movable securities, and this is considering one of the solutions to support the growth of the economy by providing the banks the solution to start lending against those movable assets. Regarding the national supply chain, which is under reverse factoring, which we have mentioned earlier in our main product. This is a platform which is enabling EDB to start supplying the whole ecosystem of the SMEs as well of the large corporate through the platform, digital platform. And the idea behind the platform is to support the whole ecosystem by providing a credit line for the working capital for the large corporate, big companies in UAE, and allow the SME, which is considering their suppliers, direct suppliers with them, to get their money immediately through the platform by posting their invoices through the platform by the buyer, which is Anchor. And this is give the solution to the SME to encash their invoices within 24 to 48 hours. And also, solve the issue that they have normally to wait maybe 60 to 90 days or more in order to get their funds. And this is one of the fintech solution, and EDB is very active on this platform because it's not only a solution for financing, it's also helping the whole ecosystem by supporting the whole financing solution and supply chain.
Fadil, if you allow me just to elaborate on this a little bit more, my apologies. So for example, today we are working right now with a couple of big insurance companies, including TPAs, a lot of pharmaceutical, I would say pharmacies in general. Usually by the time they collect their, consumers submit their invoices, and by the time the payment comes in, it takes 90 days to 120 days. So this is a very critical and a huge funding gap in the market where by the time the pharmaceutical gets his invoices and by the time insurance companies and TPA works to collect those claims, it takes 120. Now we're trying to see if we can put some of these TPAs or big insurance companies on this platform where we will fill this gap by once any pharmaceutical, I would say factories or even pharmacies submit their invoices, we can immediately, instantly pay. So if anybody is interested, my contact will be there and Fadil is there. Please if they have a good connection with any TPAs or any insurance companies, we really would love to start a dialogue with those TPAs or insurance companies. I think this is a huge opportunity. We have right now 6-7 anchors that on our platform, but we are keen to get one of the TPAs or insurance companies on this platform because I think a lot of issues will be resolved, especially on a funding gap.
Thank you so much. If you have any clarification, we are ready to answer all your questions and queries. Thank you.
I have a question for EDB. Do you also insure receivables? A lot of the pharmaceutical companies deal with markets that sometimes have challenges with currency, with fluctuations, etc. So how do in countries like many countries, including Africa, the Levant area, are there any solutions that you have for that?
Interestingly, you're asking this question. We had a meeting today with the management and we are working with ECI to see how can we work together so we can insure some of these receivables. And internally, we want to build the capabilities. Right now, we don't have those capabilities, but you're absolutely right. We are just putting a business case together to see how can we really discount those receivables and insure through ECI. So just give us some time. So right now we don't, but just give us maybe a month, 30 days from today. That's on the top of our priority list. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Something that we will work on. Fadil, you want to add anything?
But currently, we have local invoice discounting or receivable discounting is available. But internationally, we are building the capacity on that.
Madhukar, you had a question?
Yes, I have a question for EDB. I represent pharmaceutical industry, where our capital expenditure most of the time is not in a tangible assets such as buildings and plant and machinery, but our capital expenditure is mostly in a non-tangible assets and acquisition of unique technology, acquisition of unique licenses, which generates a revenue for a very long period of time, on an average about 7 to 10 years. So I would recommend that EDB should also consider a formula or a mechanism whereby non-tangible assets can also be financed compared to tangible assets, which are normally in UAE. We have seen that tangible assets are easy to get financing, but non-tangible assets are difficult to get the understanding and get the financing on that.
You're absolutely right. I think if you have any cases right now, see, tangible and intangible, I think that's a second stage of discussion. I think if you have any opportunities right now or any factories or any pharmaceutical companies that needs right now support, financial support, please talk to us. I think those tangible securities is a second stage. But I think if those companies are doing very well, EBITDA and positive, financial doing very well, they just want to expand, definitely we look into it.
Excellent, very good.
Sorry, my apologies.
Just I want to add that already we have the program which is the advanced technology, and the advanced technology is not only related for the advanced technology companies, it also can be considering under any other sector with the focus sector. Pharmaceuticals also, we are encouraging all the company manufacturers to adopt the new technology, they adopt the new advanced technology, and it will be part of our mandate to support them. Yes, it might be tangible and intangible, but we can look at the overall risk of the company, and we can look at it, and we will be more than happy to support such kind of initiative.
I know that we are on a very short timeline, and we want to get as much of your questions possible. We already have a few questions from the audience, which we can address at the end, but I want to spend a few minutes telling you about the Dubai Science Park for those of you who don't know about it. So if you, I'll take you through a very quick presentation about what we do. And then we'll end our session with Madhukar, and then after that with some Q&A. So we are part of a larger company called Dubai Holding Asset Management, with more than 7 industry sectors, 12 business communities, more than 6,500 companies, and about 100,000 creative workers. Dubai Science Park was announced by Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, ruler of Dubai, Prime Minister of the UAE, back in 2005 with under another brand name called Dubiotech. And in 2015, we rebranded ourselves to Dubai Science Park. We focus on 5 industry sectors, life sciences, including pharmaceutical and biotechnology, medtech, medical devices, energy and environment, and also food technologies. This wide group of companies represents more than 400 companies. That is basically your large companies, and also a big portion of our companies are SMEs. In the about 60% of our companies are in the life sciences sector. So it's quite an important sector for us, and we represent the majority of the large companies in pharma, biotech, medtech, the likes of Pfizer, Medtronic, Thermo, and they are obviously a very important player to the sector. They spend, the pharmaceutical industry globally spends around $80 billion in R&D spend. and our region does not probably gets less than 1% of that spending. So there is a lot we can do with the large companies, but at the same time we can also do a lot with the startups. We basically provide companies different varieties of infrastructure and solutions, from a company that is a startup to all the way to a company that is large. So no matter where you are in the process, you are someone who is working on an idea in a laboratory, or someone who wants to scale up production and manufacturing to offices and warehouses. So we've made sure that we have a very wide breadth of facilities that basically allows companies to come and be based in DSP. That's only the hardware that we do, but also equally we are very active on holding events, thought leadership discussions, connecting companies with regulators, academia, ministries like MOIAT, like the MOHAB, that plays a very important role. So we take on that as well. Pharmax, obviously, Madukar is going to tell you more about it. It's one of our very proud projects that started really from an idea and all the way to what it is today. We also provide a solution that is called build to suit, meaning that we take on the capex that the companies need to do, and we build custom-made facilities for companies. And we are actually handing over 2 projects for 2 separate companies. One of them is Himalaya, and the other one is called Firmenich. That is a Swiss company. So we will also soon be home to 3 R&D centers that will have a global reach. As we are really, we act as gatekeepers of the industry. We work with the companies very closely. I think the government has also noticed our approach, and we have been tasked to chair the Pharma and Medtech task force of the Dubai Industrial Strategy 2030. And also we have been involved with the 2 trillion initiative. And really the idea is, how do we enable the ecosystem? How do we make Dubai more attractive for manufacturing? What are the things that we need to change or improve on a policy level? And this is something that we have been working with multiple organizations, including the Dubai Export and Industry, Dubai Customs, and also on a federal level, the Federal Competitiveness Council, MOHAB, MOIAT, of course. And this is really a collective effort, and we need to all work together to make Dubai and the UAE a more attractive place for manufacturing.
I wanted to share some good news of the way how we collaborate with the Dubai Science Park. We had a company that was only 6 months old, and he had secured some receivable from governments. We have just recently financed them, so it shows how the entire ecosystem is connected. So you guys have built beautiful infrastructure there, and you've allowed companies to come in and start. So this was the first deal that we are financing Dubai Science Park. Just wanted to share with everyone. Now, if there are more cases like this, we are more than happy to help and support.
I'm coming next.
Please.
From 400 companies, we've been able to work with 1, so that's a good start. There is many more companies to come.
Thank you.
So thank you, Marwan, and good afternoon, His Excellencies and other senior members of the panel. I think it was an excellent presentation and the right timing to discuss the subject on pharmaceuticals. I would like to divide my comments briefly, but in 2 parts. One is going to be focusing on domestic operations and the export-driven markets. As far as domestic challenges or domestic opportunities are concerned, I think there is no better time than now to adopt a locally produced, high-quality branded generic segment, which has been very well received by private sector as well as government sector, and supported by Ministry of Health and Prevention with a greater access, better pricing, faster regulatory mechanism. What is needed, I think I'm speaking on behalf of all my colleagues in the industry, is perhaps through a unification, through perhaps like a local pharma group to solve certain small wrinkles, I would say, in terms of reimbursement, perhaps unification of reimbursement system across UAE, which will not only improve our performance, but also it will drive the pricing better. So that is something which I think I would like to highlight on the domestic front. In the beginning of the year, we have been acquired by Abu Dhabi-based sovereign wealth fund, ADQ, which has opened up a number of other opportunities besides domestic supply in terms of production of newer molecules, newer pharmaceutical dosage forms, and also focus on exports. One of the good features of UAE is the quality standards that we maintain. The standards adopted by us, which is controlled by Ministry of Health and Prevention, is on par with US or European quality. So I would like to assure people that the quality that we produce meets the global standard. And I would like to say that instead of just not only make it in UAE, but buy Emirates product should be our slogan to adopt more and more local production. Speaking of export now, there are certain challenges depending upon which market we are targeting. For example, if we are targeting the Middle East and Africa, we need a different regulatory standards to support those markets. Maybe we require a better pricing or better regulatory mechanism, different kind of regulatory mechanism to allow us to compete with the companies which are from other parts of the world. At the same time, I think as a UAE being a center of global center, we should also start thinking of Eurocentric policies and encourage the development of, since R&D is a major area of our focus, we can develop more technology which is suitable for exports to Europe, logistically, infrastructurally, financially, and from the human resource point of view. We have all the necessary ingredients to become a leading exporter of pharmaceuticals, not only in Africa and Middle East, but as well as in Europe. There are some challenges remain, but I think that can be discussed along with the Ministry of Health, other authorities to encourage exports to Europe. I think it is feasible. We have tried it and we see already a bright light soon. And that is something which we can encourage overall. I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't have any detailed presentation. If you have any specific questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you very much. I think we have a couple of questions that I see on the chat, and we can go ahead and answer those very quickly. One of them asks about how many pharmaceutical factory industry exists in the UAE, and I think there's about 15 factories from Ras Al Khaimah all the way to Abu Dhabi. Is there some in the future? Yes. From what I know, there could be anywhere from 5 to 6 that are under construction. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Madhukar, but definitely there is more to come, which is great. If you look at the pharmaceutical logistics, 95% of them or even 100% of them are actually shipped by air. And with the logistics infrastructure that we have of Emirates and Etihad, the products can be anywhere. Given their connectivity. So this is, I think, a very exciting time for the life sciences, and there is a lot that we can do.
Yes, I agree, Marwan. UAE has been able to attract some of the excellent names from Europe to produce locally, such as Esino, as you have been part of that event where we've signed an agreement with Esino, and we are in the process of signing such other agreements. So we have necessary demand and the capability to attract European and many other players. At the same time, we have the right infrastructure to for exports through either Jebel Ali, Etihad, or Emirates Airlines.
Madhukar, is there anything that from a bilateral trade relationship between countries, now that you're talking about Europe, that can be done between the UAE and the EU, for example, that will ease some of the trade relations between UAE and those countries?
EU is a fairly open market, and it offers a very competitive environment. As long as we can produce EU quality products, instead of bilateral, I would say we can go across the EU markets, whether it is Central European markets or even Western European markets, where we have full access to those markets. We just have to establish our manufacturing capability at home to provide what European requirements are. There are a number of areas where we are very competitive, and people would like to do business with us as long as we have the right R&D capabilities.
Now, speaking of R&D, very quickly, I know we're almost close to the end of the session. What can the UAE do to attract more R&D? Is it financing? Is it incentives? Is it grants? Is it talent?
I think financing. We do not have any issue of attracting local talent, as well as there are a number of people from around the world willing to come here and do research. We have enough of universities to tie up with on a number of project by project basis. I think we need a special R&D financing, because the R&D results will come over a period of time, long term, 3 to 4 years, if we start today. So I think the long-term R&D financing, and most importantly, tie up with the universities, because we don't have to do everything ourselves. I think universities are the perfect ground to collaborate and work and develop local development work.
Just to comment on the R&D, as I mentioned when I briefly showcased what we will be doing in the ministry, there will be a national council at national level, which will include federal government, local governments, and private sector, as well as academia. And this will be the National Research and Development Council that will overlook all the research and development activities with the focus on our national priorities. And of course, healthcare and pharmaceutical is on the top of the list. So there will definitely be a lot of focus from regulatory framework, of course, policy making, funding, and make sure that there is a tangible outcome. Because today, as we speak, and you have rightly mentioned, Madhukar, that we do spend on R&D, there are activities, but when it comes to what's the outcome, we just have IPs shelved in the offices, that's it. There's no commercial value, there's no socioeconomic impact. So what we want to make sure in the ministry, that whatever R&D activity is being conducted, regardless where it is, whether it was in the private sector or the academia or even in some semi-government entities, we want to make sure that it has a value. We want to make sure that it has an impact that is in line with where the country is going. So I can assure you now, establishing this governance body will hopefully solve this issue.
Excellent, thank you, Mohammed. And I also want to inform Your Excellency Omar and the rest of the participants that we are also leading to create a local pharmaceutical group representing all the factories in the UAE, to really unify their voice and take all of their concerns to different ministries, whether it is Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Health, and create like a one body to be representing everyone. The multinationals who are with us are very well grouped and represented through various groups like Pharma, Micomed, etc. Unfortunately, the local factories are not, and this is something we are spearheading with the help of Dubai Chamber and other colleagues here, So we will seek your guidance and seek your support moving forward.
I'd like to add one point with regards to financing, Marwan, if you allow me.
Go ahead.
We mentioned the solutions that are offered by EDB, but I think MOIAT continuously tries to diversify the financing solutions available for the industry, because every sector, I mean, financing is an issue not only for pharmaceuticals, but for the industry as a whole. And it's a main challenge that enables the industries across sectors. So we continue to work with a lot of providers to diversify the financing solutions available. So we started also with EDB, and we had the MOU with EDB, but we're also working on a pipeline of other agreements with other financial providers.
Excellent, very good. With that said, if no one else has any comments, I think this we're coming to an end of this session. I'd like to thank all the participants who have been asking a lot of questions. So those who we did not get back to you, we'll get back to you offline. But mostly I'd like to thank my colleagues and the panelists, His Excellency Omar Al Suwaidi, Abdullah, Mohammed, Fadl, and Shaka as well, Maduka, of course. And we look forward to getting in touch with you soon. Thank you very much.